We are very fortunate today to have Dr. Chen Yi with us, and the director, and William Intriligator, the director of the Dubuque Symphony Orchestra and conductor, and Dr. Rob Stull, the director and conductor of the Dubuque Youth Symphony, as well as assistant professor of music at Clarke University. So I will leave the gentleman and Dr. Chen to discuss her works and her musical output.
Thank you so much, Amy, for making these introductions. As a former student of Dr. Chen, we feel very blessed to have you in our musical community here in Dubuque and everything that you've added to our musical community as a faculty member at Clarke University. And it's wonderful that through also your music, we get the spirit of Dr. Chen in her teaching through you. And Dr. Chen, it's a great honor to meet with you personally today via Zoom. And we're very excited at the Dubuque Symphony Orchestra to be presenting your piece Shuo for String Orchestra at our concerts coming up here in March. So thank you for joining us.
And thank you. And good morning, everybody. And thank you for Professor Amy Duncan, who introduced me to Clarke University. And also it's a great honor for me to meet both of you, Professor Rob Stull and also our music director at this time, who is going to conduct the orchestra here of my Shuo for String Orchestra. And good morning, Bill. And I thank you last time when you conducted the Cheyenne Symphony to my piece. I love the performance, and this time I look forward to your great concert in Clarke University, because this piece was describing about the spring as the Shuo, this character, which means the first day of the new year, the Lunar New Year. And so it just matches the timing, and the spring is coming. And and this was the material based on a folk tune in China, in Yunnan province, that is in southwestern China. And I just took the di da do do do, that is the folk tune. But in the beginning, you would hear the viola solo, which leads the whole group in, and it's a kind of mountain song singing with improvisational style. And later, when the violin solo comes back, and that would be the recap of the piece. And in the middle, you can hear this tune of the folk song has been developed into melody in the middle section. So the whole piece is a kind of a spring celebration, and also the kind of vital spirit and fresh air. This kind of encouragement and hope, I think that will encourage our audience as well. And I hope everybody would enjoy the piece, because when I heard from Amy and from her colleague Rob, and I was so happy. Oh, you are going to do my piece here. And I also think that our university orchestras would do a great job.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. I love the connection with our current time of year, the coming of spring and Shuo to initiate, and the first beginnings of the lunar calendar. That makes so much more sense. I was going to ask you about the title, and you answered the question. When the Dubuque Symphony performs this, we will, one of the things I like to point out sometimes is that it has this kind of these beautiful Chinese mountain singing songs, and then also the song from the Shui province, and the way that you treat some of the music has these fugal or canonic elements, and I wondered if that is also an element in Chinese folk music, or is that maybe some element of considered of the classical music that you bring to the folk songs?
Yeah, that is a great question because I was trained as a classical music musician. I learned the piano from 3 years old and violin in 4 years old, and playing through all the classical repertoire actually. As a violinist, you know the training that would cover all Paganini capriccios and all concertos in standard classical music repertoire, and not until the Cultural Revolution in the 60s in China, when I was a teenager, I was sent to countryside to do farmer work as in rural area, and at this time I brought my violin, and so I kept my fingers moving by playing the only allowed tunes, the revolutionary songs. But I inserted all these techniques I learned from classical music. And so it was the first step. I became a composer, so-called, because through improvisational performance, you got to practice all this technique. And not until the later, when I worked as a concertmaster in the Beijing Opera Orchestra for 8 years, when I was brought back to the city when I was 17 years old, and I started to compose for a lot of orchestration works for the Peking Opera Orchestra, to be going along with the new created operas. And that's why I was admitted to the Central Conservatory of Music after the Cultural Revolution ended. It was from the first time after 10 years of block, the higher education has resumed. So I went to the conservatory to study composition when I was 25. That is
Amazing.
supposed to be the time for Amy to earn her DMA.
And weren't you the first woman to earn the master's degree from the Beijing Central Conservatory? Was it hard for a woman then?
Maybe not hard for women, but hard for musicians generally, because we do have some women classmates. They just didn't apply. They became professors. I was the one who was told that who could pass the English test. That's why I applied to the master degree in order to reserve some more teachers for the school. And I became the first woman composition master degree holder from the Central Conservatory of Music. But after that, China had not offered a doctoral degree program by that time in 1986. So I became a DMA at Columbia University to study with Professor Zhou Wenzhong, who was the vice dean of the Columbia University's School of the Arts. And also I studied with Mario Davidovsky, who became my advisor for my dissertation several years later.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know, you can tell that you are a string player. The string players of my orchestras really enjoy this music and they love playing it. And it's evident that you are a string player. But this piece, Shuo, is kind of advanced. I know Rob has a question about some of your other repertoire that, or some of your other catalog of works that you've written. Go ahead, Rob.
Sure. Thank you, William, and thank you for having me on today. As Amy had mentioned, I conduct the youth orchestra here in Dubuque, and we are always looking for pieces that are going to push students outside of the Western classical music to learn more about world music in general. So one of my questions is, are there pieces that you have written for a youth orchestra setting, or are there pieces that you know of? Or are there pieces that you might be willing to even work on for youth orchestra for us? Because I would love to have those students experience this great music that is out there.
Wow, that is another good question. And Ron, I have written for Montgomery County Youth Orchestra and also Omaha Youth Symphony, and also in California, and it's called Tone Pom for orchestra, and then the Montgomery County Youth Orchestra piece is called Celebration, and those are kind of overture type, and it has been played by several youth orchestras and also by other orchestras. And actually, many youth orchestras play my pieces written for professional orchestras. They did that very well.
Well, and Rob also has experience with some of your concert band wind ensemble music too. Tell us about that.
Because I first was commissioned by several groups who have wind ensemble instrumentation, including the war band music, like a consortium commissioning groups, which has invited me to write Dragon Rhyme. That has two movements, and it has been played by many university bands. And then later, there is another piece called Wind, W-I-N-D, and it is also played by university bands. And but the other major work, like Chinese Midwest, is and Suite from China West. It was commissioned by Metropolitan Wind Symphony in Massachusetts, and but I do have many chamber wind pieces. You know why? Because when we had the new millennium celebration, it was American Guild of Organists who commissioned me the piece for organ and chamber winds premiere in Seattle. And then I also adapted my cello quintet for cello and chamber winds, which is called Suite for cello and chamber winds. And that has been played by my UMKC band because our UMKC band has asked me to adapt several of my orchestra pieces for wind ensemble or wind symphony. So I have a great collaboration with my colleagues as well, and you might have heard Prism Quartet with UMKC band
Yes.
playing my saxophone quartet concerto called Ba Yin, like a three movements. And those are the pieces written for band, and some are adapted from my orchestra works or chamber works.
Fantastic. Wow. This has been such a thrill to get to visit with you this morning. And I really feel like your music has such a special quality. And getting to know you personally and hearing you speak about it and seeing your beautiful smile, I think it just makes your music come alive even more. Uh, there's this incredible spirit in your music and wonderful, beautiful compositions. I can't wait to share Shuo with the audiences for the Dubuque Symphony Orchestra here in Dubuque. And thank you, Amy and Rob, and especially Dr. Chen for this opportunity.
Thank you, Bill, for your great support, and thank you, Amy and Rob, your great colleagues, and I have my honor to work together with you all, and hope our audience will enjoy our music.